So at this point, I'm freaking out. I feel like I'm gonna die. My breath is starting to go away. Like I feel like I can't really breathe that well anymore. My heart's beating extremely fast, and it's like my brain is foggy. I can't really understand what's going on. Like I'm living in that second, but at the same time, I feel like I'm not really living in the second. What's up, guys? This is Kota Guillaume. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of a sensitive subject for me, but I've decided that I think that it's valuable for me to put my experience out so that I can help other people if they're experiencing the same thing. So while I was in school, and then even when I graduated, one thing that I experienced what I didn't believe in truly ever was anxiety attacks. I always felt like anxieties were something that people literally just made up, and I felt like if you put your brain into it, you could just overcome it. It was not a real thing. Well, I believed that until it happened to me, and when it happened to me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so real, this is devastating, it's a really bad feeling. So I want to give you guys my story, tell you guys what I went through. I don't know scientifically and medically speaking if this is 100% how you should deal with it or how it happens. This is just my personal experience, and tell you guys what I went through and how I dealt with it. It affected me mainly in my school and my career for the largest part, and I'll explain how was this So first things first, a little bit background on me. When I went to school, I was a full-time student and still working full-time. So I was taking about 18 hours. It was a full-time student hour, and then still working about 25, 30 hours. And on my last semester, I decided to kind of push my limits and took 21 hours and working 30, 35 hours a week. So it was extremely rough. I was putting a lot of load on my brain, and plus I was working as a developer. So working as a developer, you kind of constantly work your brain a lot. So it was just not really fun times in my life. So that's when it all began. I think main reason why it began was because of how much load I was putting on my brain. So just want to give you guys the background. So first time I experienced the anxiety attack was kind of blurry. I still remember everything, but it was kind of blurry. So I was coming down from school, going home, and I was in my car. And it was, I think, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I was in the library on a Saturday or something. So it was still a midday. And I realized that it was just kind of out of nowhere. I start feeling that my heart started beating faster than usual. So first, I didn't really think much of it because I'm like, you know, whatever, it just could be from anything. I had coffee earlier, so I don't know. Like, just didn't pay much attention to it. And then I realized that it was keep getting more and more and more. The heart started beating much more. And then I had my Apple Watch on, and I noticed that my Apple Watch even notified me that one of those notifications that your heart's been beating a little too fast without any activity going on. So that's when really I was like, what is going on? What's happening? So I pulled over and then start kind of paying attention to my body, trying to understand what was going on wrong. And one thing that I could realize was that my heart was beating really fast, and I was getting I had chills. I was getting a little cold. And so even at this point, I'm just not really too worried about it. I'm not trying to pay too much attention, but the thing about me is I'm a very analytical person, so it's like I have to know what's going on, otherwise it drives me crazy. So I'm sitting in my car. At this point, I'm on my phone and Googling my symptoms. And it's like one thing that you don't want to do because Google will tell you so much things, it will drive you insane. So a couple of things that Google telling me is like, oh my gosh, you may be having a heart attack, like that's a sign of heart attack, you might want to call 911. So at this point, I'm freaking out. I feel like I'm gonna die. My breath is starting to go away. Like I feel like I can't really breathe that well anymore. I feel like I'm so cold. It's like summertime. I'm so cold. Like I put a heater on. I put my seat heater on and everything. Like I'm freezing. My heart's beating extremely fast, and it's like my brain is foggy. I can't really understand what's going on. Like I'm living in the second, but at the same time, I feel like I'm not really living in the second. It's really hard to explain it, but it's almost like you're there, but you're not there. Your mind is so blurry that you remember right then and there what you're doing, but like 5 seconds later, you remember what was going on 5 seconds ago. I almost felt like I was experiencing like a pre-death effect, and I just had no control over it. There was nothing I could do about it. So I kept looking, I kept Googling, and I'm like, I need to figure out what's going on. I don't know what to do. Like you feel so helpless. You feel like you don't have any power whatsoever on what's going on. So honestly, at that point, I almost blacked out. I don't really remember how long it lasted. I don't really remember what all happened after that. I know that like maybe like I would say about around 5 minutes or so after, I started feeling like I could breathe again. I could see things again. My brain fogginess starting to clear up, and I felt like I was getting better. So about 10-15 minutes later, everything kind of calmed down, and then I start thinking about what just happened. Like this went away, that's fine. I'm thankful that whatever it was, it's gone. But what was this? And then I went to doctor like a couple days after that and explained everything to my doctor. And she was like, that's what anxiety attack is, kind of moving over to panic attack. So what difference is the way I understood it and the way I experienced it in the following accidents was that panic attack is whenever you let your brain take over you, and whenever your anxiety gets to the point where your brain is just freaking out and you're just like, you can't control your actions anymore, you can't control emotions anymore, and that gets points to when it's like a panic attack, you're just freaking out. So another big time that it wasn't a second time, but it was like down the road, maybe a few months after that, after I graduated, I had like a pretty bad anxiety attack again, and that was in my work. So my work had sent me on a conference with one of a pretty big clients. It was going to be like a few $1 million project, and they wanted me to run the meeting and lead the conversation to potentially sell our services to them. So at that point, I was like at the company for like maybe a year or so. I was in the industry for like barely a year and a half. So I felt very fresh. I feel like I was not really qualified to have this kind of responsibility, but because of the way I am, I don't really let the challenge down. I always accept the challenge. So I was like, well, I'm gonna do it. Either way, whatever it is, I'm gonna do it. So I remember I had a meeting at 9 a.m. and I showed up at the meeting around 8:30 or so, and I'm in my car and I can feel it again. I can feel it coming. That's like one of the most important things that I realized that I had to understand is know when it's coming. So I can try to stop it. So I saw it, I could feel it coming. It's like my heart started beating again and my body's getting a little cold. I put my heater on, my brain is getting a little foggy. I remember like right now what I'm doing, I'm aware of it, but like 5 seconds later, I barely remember what just happened 5 seconds ago. So all of these symptoms are starting to bubble up again. And that's when I was like, I don't have an option. I don't really have an option at this, but I can't just walk out. I'll get fired. Like I can't just walk out of this meeting. Well, I wasn't at the meeting at the point, I was in the car, but I can't not do it. I had to go in. So that's when I was like, okay, what can I do right now? What can I do right at this second to help me? So what I did was I opened Netflix and I started watching Netflix. I was like, I got 30 minutes, so I'll watch Netflix for 5-10 minutes. So I put on like a TV show that I knew, the one that I could follow, and I think it was Office or Parks, I don't remember, and I put some episode on and I really start paying attention. And I realized that what was happening was that I was distracting myself. I wasn't paying attention to my symptoms and my anxiety anymore. I was starting to paying attention to something else. So that kind of triggered a little bit in me in the sense that I knew that whenever something like this happened, if I could distract my brain, I could make it go away. So during that time in the meeting, I won't say that 100% dissolved all my anxiety. It was still there in the meeting. From what I remember when my coworkers told me was that I did fine. I answered the questions properly and the meeting went well. But overall, I still felt like I was 100% there. Like the brain fogginess is the biggest thing that I get whenever I have the anxiety attack. After that, I mean, I've had anxiety attacks many more times because of personal issues that I went through in my life and all sorts of different things that causes it. Mainly for me, it's whenever I put a pressure on my brain, whenever I'm trying to understand or analyze what's going on in my life, whenever I'm trying to go to do something that I'm not 100% sure if I'm confident and qualified to go do that thing. Whenever I'm doing more than my body is capable of doing, so like sometimes in the gym, whenever I would go work out and like 2-3 times a day and like I need to really gain this weight and get crazy about it, that would kind of give me anxiety attacks. Of course, losing somebody in life, that has a huge effect in your life as well, on your anxiety as well. So one thing that I understood is that it doesn't really go away. Like it's really hard to not push on your brain. It's really hard to avoid all these things in life. It just happens. My doctor at one point gave me this medication to help my anxiety, but I didn't want to take it. I couldn't take it because I was like, I feel like if I take the medication, it calms me down in the sense that it makes me almost like a zombie. And my brain constantly has to be working. My brain constantly has to be doing stuff and challenging its own self. So I can't do these medicines. I would rather have this anxiety attacks and learn how to deal with it than take a medication and just limit the amount of work my brain does. So for quite some time, maybe a few months, it was really hard to deal with it because it would come and there was almost no way I could help it. And one thing that triggered it the most was alcohol. If I went out and had a couple of drinks, and we're not talking like going out and partying all night. If I had like 5 drinks, right? So like 5 drinks, 5 beers, and I was slightly intoxicated. I was feeling a little tipsy, but not drunk, but not 100% sober either. So like that would really affect me the next day. I would wake up and I would have anxiety, no matter what. And it was almost like an all-day event. Like all day long, I would have anxiety. And if I went out and partied, they would like give me anxiety for like 2 days, 3 days. At one point I went to cruise and came back 5 days later. I had a 5-day anxiety. It was the worst. So since then I quit drinking because of that, because of how much anxiety it gives me. So what I realized was that I just have to identify what causes this anxiety attacks and I need to help it. So it's almost like a 2-step process for me. Step 1 is try to identify how it begins and try to stop it before it begins, before it happens. Like for me, cutting out alcohol was one way that I could just stop it even beginning. And the second thing is, okay, if it begins and I can't avoid it, what can I do to help it slow down? What can I do to help it not be so bad and convert into panic attack? Because once you get to the panic attack, it's almost like, for me, I didn't really have a control over it. At that point, I had to almost like just fight it out, just be there and let it go away on its own, which is really hard when you're in the middle of the panic attack. It's not that easy to just let it wear off, because you almost feel like it's never gonna wear off, it's never gonna go away, but it will, but you just don't really realize it at that time because it feels like it's going on for so long. So for me, what has helped and what I do now is that one, if I can stop it, I do my very best to stop it. So I like my personally, sleeping is a big thing that helps me. If I get a good rest, even if it's like a midday and take like a 30-minute nap, 20-minute nap, that helps my brain calm down, that helps my brain just stay polished and sharp, and the anxiety doesn't come that easily. Meditation helps me significantly. Whenever I put a lot of pressure on my brain, I try to meditate a couple times a day just to let my brain calm down, let my brain kind of reset in a way. Vacations, of course, help. It's not something that it's easily done, because of the financial cost and whatnot. So I try to go vacation as much as I can, and that helps me as well to detach my brain and take it somewhere else, so that when I come back, I'm full, ready to go again. If it does begin, if the anxiety does begin, and I can't prevent it from happening, then what I do is try to distract myself, try to think about something so that my brain is not focusing on what's going on, why is my body feeling this way. Some things that I try to do is, one, like I said earlier, put a Netflix on, put something on that you can watch, something that you get into it. Another thing that I try to do is, like, I love astronomy, and astronomy allows me to like take my brain in a very deep place, because it's like it takes a lot of thinking from me. So if I feel like anxiety is beginning, I start thinking about astronomy. Heck, even if you think about distance alone, between like this space and cosmic distance, it will take your distraction. It will distract you, and you're not gonna be thinking about, why is my body feeling this way? Why am I going through this? Your brain will be completely elsewhere, and you wanna find the subject that just distracts your brain. I know for some people, another thing that helps is counting. I've tried that. It helps a little bit. It helps a little bit, but I feel like I can count and still thinking about what's going on in my body simultaneously. So it doesn't help me as much because it doesn't distract my brain 100%. The important part is to, like I said, the 2 pieces. Stop before it happens, and then if it begins, try to distract your brain. And don't freak out. It's easier said than done, because every time I get into the situations, I tell myself, but myself almost doesn't want to believe it, but I'm gonna say it just so that you can hear it. If you go through it, know that it will go away. You will not stay there forever. It feels like it's never gonna go away, but it will go. maybe like 30 seconds or so, and it will go away. It will for sure go away. Just hang in there. You are not the only one going through this, and I promise you, I know it sucks because I've been in so many times, but you have to be stronger than your brain sometimes. You have to tell your brain, they're like, hey, I'm not gonna let you do this. I'm not gonna let you consume me. So make sure you go to the doctor if it continues happening, and see a doctor. Another big thing you want to do is let your family know. People that care for you, let them know. It's not good to be kind of closed up. I'm the type of person that I don't really allow my emotions to come out. I don't really talk to people very much. It's really hard to get close to me or know what's going in my head because I don't talk much. But if you're having a lot of anxieties, you have to allow yourself to talk. You have to get it out because talking helps. And your family will always be there. So, you got to let them know. You got to open up to them. And I always like to fight things out on my own. It's like I feel like I'm always a very independent person. And when I have anxieties, when it gets bad, I'll always reach out to my family. Always reach out to people that care for me because it's important. It's very important to have someone. So good luck, you guys. If you ever need somebody to talk to, if you ever need any opinions or any questions, let me know. I'm here for you guys. Especially with this anxieties, gosh, I've spent years trying to analyze it, and finally I'm at a place where I can fight it, I can work around it, and I know how to live with it. For me, it doesn't. I will be lying if I say it goes away over time. It doesn't. You just learn how to live with it, or you just learn how to deal with it. Sometimes you live with it in the sense that it comes and you just know how to handle it. Sometimes I analyze the facts that cause the anxieties, and you stop doing them. You don't do them anymore. So good luck, you guys. Hang in there. It will get better, I promise. Bye. Take care, everyone.